Good evening, Zate's guests and friends. My name is Tyler Boisvert. I'm the Executive Director of Zeta Psi Fraternity. I'm here with you today during the 2020 virtual convention to introduce the James H. McLaughlin Interfraternity Service Award to Brother Robert Edgmon of both the Iota Alpha and the Phi Lambda chapters. But first, let me provide you a little background on Brother McLaughlin. He graduated from 1952 after joining the Theta Xi chapter at the University of Toronto. He immediately became involved in the International Brotherhood, culminating in his term as Phi Alpha between the years 1971 and 1974. He is one of the only individuals who's held the office for 3 terms. Coincidentally, he also is the individual who hired Greg McElroy as the executive director in the early 1970s. After his service with the fraternity, he got more involved in the interfraternal world, being invited to sit on what was then known as the National Interfraternity Conference Board. He then culminated at the presidency in 1980-81, helped change the name to the North American Interfraternity Conference, really combining the fraternity world with Canada and making it representative of his own chapter as well as every other chapter of every other fraternity. He truly believed in both Zeta Psi as well as the power of fraternity. To today's recipient, Brother Robert Edgmon, he's a rare member in Zeta Psi initiated into 2 chapters. First as an undergraduate at the University of Texas, the Iota Alpha chapter. He then, as a dedicated elder in Seattle at the University of Washington, was initiated as an alumnus into the Phi Lambda chapter. Now, while he is very involved in Zeta Psi, this award is being presented to him today for his interfraternalism. He works for and advises many of the big houses at the University of Washington, and always passes along the knowledge of what interfraternalism can bring to the other organizations and to our own membership. Now, during this difficult time, many might just turn to helping solve the internal problems of the local group, but this is what separates Brother Edgmon. He has taken the time to help the Alumni IFC and to help all Greeks really learn and understand the differences from what COVID-19 has taught his own chapter. He takes the best practices that he's learned and helped the alumni associations at the University of Washington, as well as taking it even a further step in helping all chapters in Zeta Psi prepare for the COVID-19 fall 2020 semester. As he states, we are only as strong as our weakest link. So please take your time to help each other, help the other Greek organizations. It is my privilege and my pleasure to introduce this year's James H. McLaughlin Award winner, Robert Edgmon.
Before I talk about this honor the Brotherhood has given me, I need to express my loving gratitude to Eileen D. Edgmon, my bride. She is a sister of Kappa Alpha Theta. She was fully aware that being with a fraternity man would mean she'd have to share me with Zeta Psi when we first got together, and she still stayed with me. She knows that she could end my involvement with fraternities with just a word, and yet she chooses to fully support my involvement. Eileen D is proof once again that Zates can, and often do, marry above their station. My grandfather Edgmon was born in 1914 in East Texas. He was 2/3 Native American, worked construction for 49 years, aged 16 to 65, was the wisest man I ever knew. He once said to me, he said, "Boy, if you're fixing to get an award, think twice before accepting it, because by accepting it, you promise to do 2 things. The first is you promise to spend the rest of your life living up to the meaning of the award. You promise to never bring shame to those before you. You promise to always be worthy. The second promise you make is to do everything you can to encourage others to aspire to live the meaning of the award." Attaching those 2 promises to the McLaughlin Award, needless to say, it's very intimidating. An award is named after someone whose life, personality, and values embody the meaning and a purpose of that award. I never knew Brother James McLaughlin, but in order to live up to those two commitments I would be making by accepting this award, I needed to know something about it. I reached out to Brother Greg McElroy because, let's face it, if Greg can't give you information on a Zeta Psi topic, is it really worth knowing? I hit the jackpot. Brother McLaughlin happened to be the Phi Alpha that hired McElroy. Greg referred to Jim as his first Zeta Psi boss, and with a bit of emotion in his voice, his mentor and dear friend. Greg had my attention. Brother James McLaughlin, Theta Xi, 1953, is the only Zeta to ever serve as president of the National Interfraternity Conference. He wholeheartedly believed that while our brotherhoods have different letters, different traditions and customs, they are one in their values and one in their mission, building better men. He was so respected by his peers that they renamed the organization the North American Interfraternity Conference out of respect for his Canadian nationality. Brother McLaughlin died suddenly during the fall of 1982. He was 52 years old. He did live long enough to see his brotherhood acclaim his devotion to Zeta Psi and the interfraternity community by creating this award in his honor and making him the first recipient of it during the 1982 Zeta Psi Chicago Convention. Over the previous 37 years that Zeta Psi has given out this award, only 11 Zetas have received it. Out of those 11, 5 had either been or would become Phi Alpha. 4 of those 11 currently have awards named after them. I had to ask myself, how did I earn the right to be in this company of such distinguished brothers? What did I do? What can I do to be worthy of the torch that has been thrown to me and hold it high? Then I remembered a quote from Sir Isaac Newton. If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. The one thing, the only thing that I have done to be deserving of this award was to surround myself with giants who were generous enough to lift me up, put me on their shoulders, and while on their shoulders, hand me their torch and ask me to hold it high. The one thing, the only thing that I must continue to do to merit this award is to continue to surround myself with giants and be humble enough to accept being lifted up to their shoulders in order for me to be able to hold their torch just a little bit higher. To name all these generous giants would take more time than I'm allotted. But to give you an idea of these men that I call giants, the following are just about a few of the brothers. Dave Hunter, C.R. Roberts, Chris Olson, Ken Kirsten, Greg McElroy, Les Mann, Stephen Halpern, Evan Pressman, John Swan, Tom Reardon, Locke Walton, Tyler Boisvert. It is written in the book, as iron sharpens iron, so does one person sharpen another. Isn't that what our brotherhood is all about? Isn't that what fraternities are all about? Isn't that why we joined a fraternity? Isn't that why 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, the fraternity is still important in our lives? This brotherhood has given us giants who have lifted each one of us up and borne each one of us on their shoulders so that we could achieve greater heights than we ever could have done on our own. We are better people because of their generosity. This current generation of fraternity men, they are going to change the world. The question is, are they going to change it for the better or for the worse? And the answer to that, in a large part, depends on what we do now, what you, my fellow Zeta brothers, do now. To you, from falling hands, we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. Brothers, now is our time. When we stand on shoulders of giants, we become giants. The question is, what kind? Are we self-centered, self-absorbed, so captivated by the keener vision gained from our greater heights that we ignore this next generation of brothers who are reaching up to us and asking for us to give them a hand? Or are we as generous as the shoulders we stand on, willing to lift this next generation of fraternity men up so they can see farther than we could imagine and take not just our brotherhood, but their peers' brotherhoods to places greater than we currently envision? Are we as humble as the shoulders we stand on, willing to give the torch to those who stand on our shoulders, accepting that we will be lost in the shadow created as they hold the torch higher than we ever could? Or are we going to be the generation, the first generation of fraternity men who break the faith with those we currently stand on and let the torch go out? Brothers, it takes effort, it takes balance, it takes strength to be able to reach down and put somebody on your shoulders. Ideally, there are other elder Zates around to support us, but none of us can do it alone. Even giants need giants on occasion. Yet, sometimes there isn't another Zeta around. But we still try to do it anyway, by ourselves. And we lose our balance. We stumble. We run out of energy. We're unable to lift anyone onto our shoulders. Brothers, I want you to listen closely to what I'm about to say. It doesn't have to be that way. You're never alone. You are never without support, even if there are no other Zates around, because you're part of a larger fraternal community. You're part of an extended brotherhood whose resources are rarely tapped into by other members of this fraternity community. The giants whose shoulders you stand on, they don't have to be Zates. I guarantee you that every challenge, obstacle, conundrum, frustration you encounter is also being experienced by a TDX, a DELT, an ASIG, an SAE, a SNU, or a Fiji alumni. They are feeling just as alone as you are. They're looking for a giant whose shoulders they can stand on for a little while, just as you are. Ask yourself this: what would Greek life be on your campus if the chapter alumni advisors all worked together in sync for the betterment of the community as a whole and for all the chapters? How would your culture on your campus change when undergraduate brothers see you working in sync for the betterment of the many with alumni from other houses? What would it just be like to be able to vent to somebody who knows exactly what you're going through? Imagine how a spouse or a partner's opinion would change towards your work with the chapter if you no longer vented to them because you've got other chapter advisors and alumni to vent to instead. Brothers, fraternities are not in trouble because of the young men who fill the undergraduate chapters. Fraternities are in trouble because the elders and alumni of today have broken the faith with those who came before us and with those who are supposed to replace us. Now, that faith has not been broken due to a lack of good intentions or a lack of effort. No, the faith has been broken by pride and hubris. To restore that faith, we must try to stop doing things by ourselves. We must humble ourselves so that we will reach up and let the giants all around us, they could be Zates, Teeks, Pikes, other Greeks, we are humble enough to let them pick us up and put us on their shoulders. Brothers, by accepting this award, I am making an oath between us that I will always do my best to be worthy of it. Strong brotherhood, hold high the torch.